And welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, podcast post-game show. Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome. So the preseason is officially, in terms of games, over and done with. And now we head towards the season for real, which begins on the 9th of September for the NFL with the first game of the season, which I think is the Rams against somebody. I can't remember who it is now. Escapes the top of my head. But the main focus for us as Pittsburgh Steelers fans is the 11th of September at Paul Brown Stadium or Paycor or whatever or Welcome to the Bungle, whatever it's called these days, as we face the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. Jer Devil in the live chat. Jer, happy to have you on board. You are on my live. Pleased you are joining us on the post-game show. So, Steeler Nation out there watching and listening here on YouTube, please get in as many of your thoughts, your comments, your questions as possible. It is only me tonight on the post-game show, as Mark has business commitments in Australia, in the land down under. That's right. He is setting up his own kangaroo farm, and he needs to get some government funding towards setting up his own kangaroo farm. So wish Mark all the best in that. Anyway, Reginald Rivers, what's up, Steeler Nation, from Bartlett, Tennessee. Reginald, one thing I always want to ask you about Bartlett, Tennessee, how far is that from Nashville? Also, Steeler Saiyan Jedi, what's up? Oh, good to have you on board so far, guys. Well, the preseason is officially over, ladies and gentlemen, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have finished the preseason 3-0. Now, I want to deal with some doomsayers and some naysayers before we even start tonight. Anyone who dares to suggest that going unbeaten in the preseason is a bad thing, shut up. Seriously, just shut up. At the end of the day, winning is a habit, and that's a habit you've got to get into. And whether you go 3-0 in the preseason or whether you go 3, whatever, does not matter. Preseason matters. That's what matters. Winning games matter. Okay, winning games matter because getting in that winning habit, starting that winning habit, builds confidence. And whether that's 3 preseason games, whether that's 3 regular season games, winning matters. And building your confidence and building this team. And I think personally, it's even more vital for this year's Pittsburgh Steelers roster to actually win these 3 preseason games, because this is a new roster, new quarterbacks, new coaches in place, new players in place. So at the end of the day, what we need to do is we need really to build that confidence. And that's what this is doing. It is building confidence. What's up, State? Pleased to have you on board. Could have come on this State. You could have come on, mate, if you weren't doing your post game yet. Reginald Rivers, you're 3 hours apparently away from Nashville, Tennessee. Love Nashville, Tennessee, because I absolutely love country music. Massive country music fan. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have won their final preseason game, 19 points to 9, against the Detroit Lions at Acrisure Stadium tonight. In what was a sloppy performance by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It really was a very sloppy performance for me. We'll talk a bit more in depth about the different position groups as we go through this podcast tonight. But overall, I thought it was sloppy. I thought penalties really hurt the Steelers. I think at one point we'd given them 8 penalties for 63 yards. Dan Moore gave up some really ridiculous holding calls. There was false start calls on the offensive line. The line didn't just hurt us in terms of its lack of blocking and its lack of opening gaps for the run game. It also hurt us in terms of the number of penalties it gave up. But it did seem tonight the referees did want to be part of that game tonight, didn't they? They did love throwing that flag and getting themselves involved. Although I think the most interesting thing about the referees was one of them was wearing sunglasses, and at one point one of them had lost his hat. Reginald Rivers says, yeah, penalties kill us big time. Yeah, 100% agree with you. They did really kill us big time tonight, Reginald. Now, let's have a little look at the box scores, a little bit look at the tail of the tape from tonight's game. So in terms of the wrong slide. In terms of the QBs, here's how they finished. Mitchell Trubisky was 15 of 19 for 160 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Kenny Pickett was 10 of 14 for 90 yards, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions. And Mason Rudolph was 0 of 3, no yards, no TDs, no interceptions. So some telling figures, I think, from that. Number one, it is noticeable that in all three preseason games, not one of the quarterbacks threw an interception. So no interceptions at all for the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks, which, as Mike Tomlin said in his press conference, which I've just watched, it speaks volumes. Mitchell Trubisky was solid, if not solid, not spectacular, which I think pretty much sums up Mitch Trubisky's career to this point. Kenny Pickett did well when he came on, was very mobile, moved around when he needed to, ran, rolled out when he needed to, threw some pretty decent passes. Mason Rudolph had a very limited part to play in the game, was 0 of 3 and didn't really do very much. Only had a very limited time in the game. I think it was one drive he had. Is this the end of Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh? That's the big question for us, I think, going forward. Sean Manhan, great to have you on board. Have to play smarter in Cincinnati. 100% agree with you there, Sean. State of the Steelers, left side of the line is still a big question mark. Absolutely, 100% agree with you, Daniel. I'll come on to that shortly. Sean, I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. And those throws Kenny made, though, wow, yes, I think Kenny did make some very impressive throws indeed. Let's first of all deal with, well, actually, let's go back to those box scores. That's what we were dealing with, wasn't it? So let's have a look at those box scores. Here's the next ones. These are our rushing stats and our receiving stats. So in terms of our rushing stats, Benny Snell, 5 carries, 17 yards. He led the team in rushing, but the rushing, again, very unimpressive. The running game was exceptionally unimpressive. And I think that is down again to that pretty awful offensive line. He averaged 3.4 yards per carry. I think Benny Snell has pretty much guaranteed his place on the 53-man roster with that performance. Gunnar Olszewski, 2 carries, 13 yards, average of 6.5. Jalen Warren, 7 carries, 11 yards, only 1.6 yards per carry. That could hurt his involvement as well. Najee Harris, 4 carries, 10 yards, 2.5 yards per carry. And Ant Mack, 2 carries, 6 yards, 3 yards per carry. Najee Harris, obviously, we've got to put that in the context. This was his first game. Freiermuth, I thought, did exceptionally well on his 3 receptions, 45 yards, 15 yards, a catch. Miles Boykin, who I think will be on the 53-man roster, 3 receptions, 41 yards, 13.7. DJ had that fantastic catch down the sideline, 1 reception for 38 yards. George Pickens, 3 for 35, 11.7. Tyler Vaughn, who I thought had a decent game as well, 2 for 24, 12 yards. Stephen Sims, 4 for 23, 5.8 yards, and 1 touchdown. So that's pretty much it on that. Now, noticeable as well that Mitch Trubisky finishes this preseason with 24 for 34 for 283 passing yards, 3 TDs, 0 interceptions, 8.32 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 115.2. Kenny Pickett finishes the preseason with 29 of 36 for 261 yards, 3 TDs, 0 interceptions, 7.25 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 124.65. So Kenny obviously has a higher passer rating than Mitch, less yards per attempt. In terms of passing yards, as you can see, Mitch has slightly more. And in terms of attempts and completions, Kenny has slightly more. So that's where we are up to in terms of the scores on the box. State says, best throw was the incompletion to Gunham in the end zone. That was clutch. 100% agree with you there, State. A fantastic throw. Brilliant rollout and really accurate throw. You know, echoing, I think, what Mike Sullivan and David Corley had said about Kenny Pickett, that even when he's running and he's on the move and he's extending the play and he's rolling out and he's throwing the ball, he does not lose any of his accuracy. Sean Manhan says, I really like the back shoulder throws. They were totally on point. Yep, Sean, absolutely agree with you on that. Remember, guys, we are monetized. Anyone want to slip us a super chat, please do. Sorry. Let's deal with, first of all, with the elephant in the room, shall we? Let's deal with that offensive line. I thought, personally, the offensive line today was absolutely shocking yet again. I'm going to be honest and truthful with you. You know, I'm a very positive guy in terms of the Steelers. I like to stay positive. You can accuse me of being a homer. You can accuse me of wearing black and gold goggles. You know, whatever you want to do. You know, I'm always going to back the Steelers to win. I'm going to back them to do well this season. You know, I projected them to finish 12-5, 13-4 at different times this season. But what is going to hurt our Steelers this year is going to be that offensive line again. The defense looked good, but again, they could end up being gassed if the offense cannot produce. Now, what is holding the offense back? It's that offensive line again. It failed to really produce any gaps for the runners to run into. It really did. It just looked shocking. In terms of pass protection, Mitch was under pressure an awful lot during that game. He was running for his life at times. Kenny Pickett had to roll out. He had to extend plays. He had to be mobile because he was under pressure at all times. And that is a big concern for me. That is a massive concern for me, that offensive line. Now, in terms of the rushing attack, if you look at that rushing attack, just quickly doing a bit, adding up in my head now, 57 yards in total. 57 yards in total on, is just not good enough. And that is something that's going to hurt us when it comes to that regular season. Now, in terms of weapons, the Steelers have some great weapons in Deontay Johnson, in Chase Claypool, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris. But you can have all the weapons in the world, but if your quarterback is not getting time to use those weapons because the offensive line is failing, then he is going to struggle. Sean says, when Kenny's in there, he moves the ball every time. Yep, 100% agree. And Steeler Chick 46, great to have you on board. Steeler Chick says, our O-line is still bad. Yeah, it is shocking. Now, actually, James Daniels didn't perform as badly tonight. Chooks gave away that one stupid penalty for holding, but was solid. He was Chooks again. But like Daniel said earlier on in the live chat, here we go. That was what he said. The left side of the line is still a massive question mark. And again, it was. Dan Moore did not look good at all. He ended up giving up a lot of pressure. He's meant to be guarding the quarterback's blind side, but did not do that very well. He gave up two stupid penalties, one after another, which shows he obviously didn't learn from his mistakes. Kevin Dotson gave up a stupid penalty as well and was not much better. But then when Kendrick Green came in, Kendrick Green gave up a stupid penalty and again was not a lot better. I think the Steelers really do need to, in the next few days, go out and try and address that left side of the line problem. Now, whether that is going out for someone like an Eric Fisher, for example, or trading for someone like an Isaiah Wynn, something needs to be done about this line, because if this line is not improved, then there will be a problem for the Steelers this coming season. Sean Manahan says, from what I've seen, Mitch has to have everything perfect around him to play really well, whereas Kenny is clutch in the middle of a storm. I think that's 100% correct. And as Crab Gravy, great to have you on board. Crab Gravy says, agree, Sean, good point. Kenny, in all the games, has looked a lot more cool, a lot more calm, a lot more collected under pressure. Now, this season, I think our quarterback is going to be, if this line is not sorted or improved over these next 2 weeks before the first game against the Bengals, then we are going to be in a position where we're going to have a quarterback who is cool, who is calm, who is collected under pressure. When he has got people coming in his face who can roll, who can be mobile, who can stand and throw like Kenny did today. Now, I know full well what, Mike Tomlin was asked at his news conference, have you got a quarterback one? He said, I may, but I'm not telling you guys yet. And I thought it was pure Tomlin. But, sit me down. I'm the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. For me, I'm going to take Kenny Pickett as the starter on Sunday against the Bengals. I know he's a rookie, but if you look at his body of work now, let's take OTAs, let's take minicamp, and let's take training camp out of this. You can be an awesome player in training, but it's not about being great in training. Some of the greatest players in history have actually been quite poor in training. There was a footballer in the UK, a soccer player called Paul McGrath, and he never, ever took part in training. And when he did, he didn't really do much. But on a game day, he was awesome. He was one of the best defenders in the Premier League in England. It's about what you do on the pitch, on that field of play, on any given Sunday. It's about what you produce, or any given Saturday or any given Thursday. These days, you never know, do you? But Kenny, for me, has looked so much more calm, so much more cool, so much more collected under pressure. He's been able to move when he's needed to. He's been able to create time with his feet. And when he's been on the run and he's thrown the ball, it's been accurate. It's been on target. It's been a quality throw every time. Now, whether the Steelers will go down that route, I do not know. Or whether they are going to start with Mitch, and then if things don't go well, then Kenny's going to come in. I think that's probably the more likely scenario. They're going to play it safe, aren't they? They're going to go for the Mitchell Trubisky option because it's the safe option at the end of the day. And whether that's right or wrong, who knows? It's a very, very tough start to the season. the Bengals and the Patriots, then the Browns. Those first 3 games in particular, exceptionally tough start to the season. It may be a situation that after the bye that Kenny comes in if things are not going well, or that, if against the Bengals, Mitch blows up and does not play at all well, then, yeah, I think it could be a situation where Kenny does come in and Kenny does start against the Patriots at home. Who knows? But something has got to be done. Jay Devil says, as well as Kenny is doing, I don't want him on the field with the line that we have. I think this is going to be the eternal debate, isn't it? It's going to be the eternal debate over this offensive line and what this offensive line will allow this team to do. The line is the problem. On the offense, the line is the problem. And, the Steelers have got 2 weeks now. Sorry, pushing the chair back there. The Steelers have got 2 weeks now to really sort this out and try and get to the bottom of what the problem is. Pat Mayer has got 2 weeks to work with them. As has the assistant offensive line coach, whose name escapes me at this moment in time. But 2 weeks. I personally really want to see that something is done. Something needs to be done about this line. It's not good enough. Now, ever since Pouncey retired, ever since DeCastro went out injured, ever since we lost that line, I think this line has gone backwards big time, and it does not look any better than it did last season. It looks like the same line, just different names. There's a saying, isn't there? I'm not going to swear. Same, different day, and I think that's what it is with the Steelers. It really is like that. Same, different season, and I think that's something they're going to have to address now. Whether that's a case of as Jay Devil says here, I think Carl picks someone up. Whether that's a case of going out and signing Eric Fisher, who is a very experienced left tackle, obviously a lot depends on his injury status, or that is going out and trading for someone like Isaiah Wynn, who the Patriots apparently are willing to trade. That's another option. And I think until something is done about this line, it does not matter who is at quarterback. You could put Russell Wilson back there, who's one of my personal favorite quarterbacks. You could put Patrick Mahomes back there, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and they're going to come under pressure. And that's a big concern for me. This line could destroy what is a very promising season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. With the players we have in the skill positions, the weapons we have at wide receiver, at running back, and at tight end, with the mobile quarterbacks we now have, especially Kenny Pickett, I think we've got a chance to really succeed. But we cannot succeed if the quarterback is getting minimum time to release the ball, if he's constantly got defenders in his face, or he's getting offensive linemen shoved, as they were tonight, bull rushed right back into Trubisky's face. Now, this is a big concern, and this is something we've really got to address. Now, obviously, that's a question here from Crab Gravy. Crab Gravy says, prediction on Mason's status. I think Mason is QB3. I think the Steelers will try and hang on to him because they think back to 2019. They think back to the problems they had in 2019 when Ben's elbow blew up and they were stuck with Mason and Duck Hodges. I think there was a situation where they may try and keep him unless the right offer comes in. Now, I know they're looking for some kind of a 3rd or a 4th round pick for him. It was noticeable tonight that both Detroit Lions quarterbacks, Blau and Boyle, were absolutely awful. They were absolutely shocking. If I was a Lions fan tonight, and I'd be worried that if Jared Goff goes down injured, you are in big, big trouble this season with those two jokers at quarterback. So it may be that they're interested in bringing in someone like a Mason Rudolph, who I think is far better than both Blau and Boyle. And that's me praising Mason Rudolph. So in terms of the offense, wide receivers I thought were very good. Boykin in particular, I think did very well and I think he's played himself onto this roster. Coach Tomlin said in his news conference that he was going to start sitting down as of Monday and looking at cutting down for this 53-man roster, which has got to be done next week. So it'd be interesting to see who they will keep. I think Jaylen Warren may have put his position under threat with his performance tonight. It wasn't as up to what the usual standards that he has performed at. So it'd be really interesting to see how many running backs they keep. Now, a question for me about this offense, guys. What is Derek Watt's point? What is Derek Watt doing? Live chat, can you answer me this question? What is the point of Derek Watt? Now, there was a comment on my live stream on Pittsburgh Owen that said he's there for emotional support for TJ. Is he? Is that what he's really there for? Because 3 preseason games, okay, as far as I'm aware, he isn't injured. He's been in street clothes. Yet TJ's played, Cam's played, Minka's played, Najee's played. All our top line talent has played. Now, is Derek Watt, Aaron Donald, or Matt Stafford or Cooper Cup that he does not have to play in any preseason games? Like McVay has not used one single starter in any of the Rams preseason games. Why is Derek Watt not playing? Why are we paying him so much money just to play special teams or just to be there for TJ Watt? What's the point of Derek Watt? He needs to go. He needs to be cut. The guy does nothing. He contributes nothing. Devil says he makes TJ's oatmeal the way he likes. Possibly, Jay, possibly. And Crab Gravy said, loved seeing Hayward at fullback. Yeah, me too, Crab Gravy. I thought Hayward had a good game tonight. Connor Hayward, I think, will be rated retained and will be tight end 3 behind Pat and Zach, who were chilling and grilling, I think it was. Right, so in terms of the defense, what was the situation tonight? I thought Devin Bush had a better game. Kevin Herzog, good to have you on board. He said, Arthur Moat said he sees Mark Robinson as a potential starter this season over Devin Bush. I think he'll make the team, but I'm not convinced he is the point of starting. What are your thoughts? Kevin, I agree with you. I think that Robinson isn't at starting point yet. He's very raw still. He's only had 1 year playing at inside linebacker. I think we may well see him in some packages, though, this year. I think we may well see him at some point this season playing at inside linebacker. Starting? No, I don't think so. I think Devin Bush has probably done enough tonight. He did play reasonably well. And as did Spillane as well. I thought Spillane did okay tonight. So I'm fully expect both Spillane and Bush to be in a position to start over Robinson. But I really do hope that Robinson makes the 53, because I think should he go into the practice squad, he is someone we will very easily lose. Injury updates as regards TJ Watt was that it wasn't serious, and that Tomlin said in a game, in another situation, he could well have returned. That's what he said anyway. But he will be monitored this week. Same with DJ, apparently. However, Damontae Kazee's wrist injury, arm injury, apparently is more serious, and that is going to be looked at tomorrow. That is really, I think, threatening Damontae Kazee's place on the roster for this season. That injury did not look good at all. The loss of Damontae Kazee could be quite major. I was really looking forward to seeing some 3 safety sets with Kazee, Edmonds, and Fitzpatrick this season. But if Kazee is out and injured, that could be a big blow to that. The run defense needs to improve further. I think they looked okay, not terrible, but they still need to step it up. They still need to raise that level, because there are times, I think, again tonight, that 27-yard run in the first half that allowed the Detroit Lions to release the pressure and get that first down was another hark back to the bad old days of last season. There was a need to tighten that run defense. It was good to see Cam Hayward, Tyson Alualu, and Larry Ogunjobi all out there together, along with obviously Jack and Bush and Watt and Highsmith, who did actually play at the start of the game for a little bit. But we do need to make sure that run defense is worked on. They've got 2 weeks to tweak those things to make it I think it's better than last season, but not back to the level it should be for a Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I thought the defense was very impressive in the first half, the way they held the Lions out of the end zone, the way they controlled that game, the way they got the Lions to go 3 and out an awful lot was very impressive. So overall, the defense for me did well. The secondary looked okay. Wallace and Witherspoon. Cam Sutton had that fantastic interception that he took back to the house. He did very well as well. Minka Fitzpatrick had that pass breakup, and that was good as well. So the defense on the whole, I think, did a good job, and the defense is definitely heading in the right direction as it heads into the 2022 NFL season. Issues, obviously, to make sure of is still that outside linebacker position. Did anyone from Delonte Scott, Hamilcar Rashed, and Derek Tushka really step up and prove that they are worthy of that outside linebacker spot? No, I don't think they did. Devil makes the point Montravius Adams needs to get healthy. Yeah, 100% agree with you, Jay. It'll be interesting to see whether he is included on the 53-man roster. Both the Davis brothers did well in the second half as well, both Khalil and Carlos. Khalil following up on that great hit that he did against the Seahawks last time out at Acrisure Stadium. Coach Tomlin gave his press conference after the game and was his usual very what's the word I'm looking for? Very brief self in his answers, giving his Tomlinisms, etc., etc. Kevin Herzog says, "Who is my preseason MVP?" Wow, great question. Kenny Pickett. Got to be Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's been fantastic. I love Kenny Pickett. Live chat. Can we answer that question? Live chat. Let's have your preseason MVPs. Jer, Crab Gravy, Steeler Chick, Sean Manahan, if you're still in the live chat. State, if you're still in the live chat. Who is your preseason MVP? Hit me up in the live chat and I'll bring those answers up on screen as we move towards the end of this Steel Syndicate podcast, this post-game show. What is there to take out of this offseason then? What do we take out of this preseason? What do we take away? That's the key question. You know, as Jenna Harner tweeted out tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the NFC preseason is officially over. The start of the regular season is 11 days away. So as we head 11 days away, what is there to take out of this season? That's a good one. Jazz, preseason MVP, Kenny. So good they named him 3 times. And Kevin Herzog says Kenny for sure. So yeah, we head towards the regular season. We are 11 days away from the regular season. What do the Steelers need to do now between today, the 29th of August, and the regular season on the 11th of September? Crab Gravy says, Kenny, I agree. Sims also played well. Yeah, Sims did actually play well. I think he's played himself into a chance of getting on that 53-man roster. So what do I think they do? First of all, the O-line needs sorting. They've got to do something to address that offensive line for definite, whether that is going out and getting someone in the free agent market like an Eric Fisher or trading for someone like an Isaiah Wynn. Something has to be done to sort that line out. What else do we need to do? We need to obviously make a decision as regards quarterback 1, and I urge the organization and the franchise to be brave with their selection. And if that means going with Kenny Pickett, then so be it. Let's give Kenny his head. Let's give him the opportunity. But, you know, let's make the right decision. And I hope Coach Tomlin, and in Coach Tomlin, we trust. Tomlin's a winner, deal with it. And I think, you know, as Mark always says, he's a winner, deal with it. We've got to trust the process at this point. You know, we head into this regular season off the back of a 3-0 winning preseason. Of those 3 games, the Seahawks game, the team played well. The Jags game, they played fairly awful, and they were very sloppy in this last game. There is still an awful lot to work on going into this season that begins in 11 days' time. Are there more questions than answers? Yes, there probably still are more questions than answers. Who will be the starting quarterback? How do they solve the problem of the offensive line? And can they get all those injuries back and fit, ready for the first game of the season against the Cincinnati Bengals? That's the big question for me. Well, it's been an entertaining preseason, hasn't it? There's been some good points. There's been some low points. Kenny Pickett obviously has been the high point. George Pickens, I think, has had a good preseason as well. I think that Jaylen Warren has had a good preseason. I think on the whole, you know, there's some very promising players coming out of this roster for this coming NFL season. Quite how the Steelers are going to do this year, who knows? But they are the Pittsburgh Steelers after all, and they're always in a position to compete and do well. That is the thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're not a team that tanks. We're not a team that loses. We're a team that is always in there, is always competing to be successful. Well, it's been a blast, guys. Talking to you here on the post-game show. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Thank you so much for coming on board. And if you're catching this Steel Syndicate podcast post-game show at a later date, then please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any of the great content here on the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, on the Steel Syndicate podcast, which Mark and I bring you at least twice a week. Mark, obviously, like I said, was unavailable for this podcast as he had some pressing business engagements starting his kangaroo farm. Okay, guys, thank you for watching. I wish you all the best, and let's finish this as we always do in everything we do. Here we go, Steelers. Come on!